Yep.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Night Owls. A bad day here in Boca Raton for all FAU fans. Blown out, annihilated, whatever word you want to call it. That's what happened. And Maryland, got to give credit to them first. This is a really good football team. Malik Washington, their quarterback, looked great. But Blake, after the game, as an FAU fan, how are you feeling and how are you coping with these emotions?
I'm disheartened. Honestly, I think this was a game that we needed to keep close. I predicted preseason. I think this Maryland team. I said they're our hardest opponent this year. I was thinking about it. I think they're our third hardest after what I've seen from USF and Tulane. Those are pretty much automatic losses at this point with this FAU team if they can't figure it out. And I can see them losing more. Um, you gotta just figure it out on all sides of the ball. Your offense can't score 7 points and expect to win, leaving the defense out to dry. Um, it's just unacceptable. This FAU team has to, do some serious thinking. Veldkamp just did not command the offense the way we thought he could have. Um, and Kitley, honestly, I'm very critical of his fourth down decisions. I think if you pinned Maryland deep, which he had the opportunity to do multiple times, I'm sorry, for having to wipe my face off. And he didn't take the opportunity to, play the field position game, which I think in college football is very important. We saw it today, just minutes ago in Ohio State, Texas. Texas was able to stay in that game very long because they played the field position game. They were able to pin Ohio State deep multiple times to get the ball back and have the opportunity to score and put pressure on Ohio State. I think this is just a disappointing performance from FAU. I think a lot of things need to change. I think the defense played a great game. Obviously, there's not much you can do when the offense is putting you right back on the field every single time. Although the final score was 39-7, you may think at first the defense all their fault. I blame the offense more for this poor play and having the defense have to literally be on the field the entire game.
Yeah, 100%, Blake. I really agree with you with the questioning of Coach Kitley. I think that's horrible. Sorry, guys, but I really question his fourth down decisions. There was multiple fourth downs. I think on the first drive, you want to put points on the board, especially when it's not even their 1 yard line; it's the 4. So if you're gonna play a Caden Velkamp rolls out right, rushes himself, I don't understand that play call. Then it's 4th and 15 at midfield at the 38, and Coach Kelly decides to leave the offense out there. Both those decisions really don't make sense. And I really don't agree with them. Then there was a multiple times in the second half where it happened as well. Where yes, that's understandable because they were down so much. But I felt like Coach Kelly's playing Madden out there. Like he was going for it on basically every single drive. Wasn't punting the ball, and I feel like he was playing Madden 26 to be honest, where you just go for it on every fourth down you have it, and it really didn't make sense because I think you have to take the points in both those scenarios. But I also want to talk about the team because this loss can't all go on Coach Kitley, even though there are parts where we disagree with him. What do you think could have improved, Blake? And when you look at this FAU team, what went wrong today?
Velkamp was so inaccurate. I mean, multiple times he just missed his throws. There was one that stood out to me in particular, open receiver right in the slot, and it just wasn't even near him whatsoever. Could have been a big momentum changing play. I think it was only 19-7 or 12-7 when this throw happened. It was still in the second quarter in the first half. And after you had the ball around midfield, end up turning it over on downs. Um, Velkamp has to be better if this FAU team wants to be the team that they think they can be. They have so much talent in the receiving core. I think that was one of the bright spots. Messer and Dominique Henry really had a solid game when the ball was in their hands. Jamari Sands also, I think he had a decent game with the poor play of Velkamp and some of the other mistakes that were made, especially penalties on the offensive line, some false starts, holdings, all of that stuff are momentum killers, and you can't make those mistakes. It's fundamentals. I think if you want to beat a good team, you got to play fundamental football. And you see it with everything. I'm gonna keep drawing back to this USF game because I think it's a similar, almost similar situation to Maryland. I mean, obviously USF the line wasn't that different, between in the spread. But USF didn't make mistakes. FAU made mistakes. USF moved the ball downfield methodically. FAU got constantly stuffed and stuffed and stuffed. And we're looking at a team in the same conference that people have predicted FAU to beat USF and contend with that group of teams in the conference like Tulane and like those top teams in the American. And those teams are making mistakes that FAU is making. Maryland had, I think it was in the first half, and it may have been I think, yeah. By the first half, they had 60 yards of penalties, 10 penalties for 60 yards. Maryland had that much penalty yards and still was up by double digit points. FAU is just not capitalizing on the mistakes the other team made. Maryland shot themselves in the foot, and and FAU just let them keep playing football. It was ridiculous. FAU has to figure it out on of multiple ends of the game. I think it starts with Delcamp in the offense, though. He did not live up to the expectations of FAU fans, and really is going to bring fear to what FAU has seen. I mean, coming out of fall camp, there was a worry with the interceptions, and we saw that today. Just the accuracy, though, that really hurts. I mean, you can't have drive killing plays. It's how it is.
Yeah, Blake, to follow up on what you said there when you started it out, I definitely agree with you that, Veltkamp really wasn't able to find his guys. There were many of underthrows, overthrows, throws behind him. 4 interceptions for Veltkamp. He should have had six. He really did have six. One was an offside penalty, so it was called back. And then there was another penalty on, I think it was holding on the defense. So he really should have had 6 picks. And I think that, he's got to sometimes throw the ball away. If you don't want to throw it into double coverage, that one pick six that he had early, there's no point in throwing that ball. I mean, there's a Maryland defensive line right next to you, and the defensive lineman was able to get the catch. And it really looked like Jalen Husky in the secondary for Maryland was able to contain FAU's receivers. I was impressed more so with Messer and Assad was seeing the most. Assad had that touchdown. He's able to get a few more catches there too. And then Easton Messer, I mean, we just threw it to him on a bunch of screens. He was able to get a lot of yards after catch, use, his speed, and he really wasn't going down a lot. I like his effort, how he was able to fight till the end there and continue his relentless route running overall. But I want to follow up on what you said about USF. And you're completely right. I definitely agree with you. And again, I agree with you. FAU couldn't get the fundamentals down. There are a bunch of mistakes there. They shot themselves in the foot too, as well as Maryland did. Didn't capitalize. And let's talk about Maryland. They had like 6 offside penalties in the first 2 drives alone, I think. But the fundamentals alone, you're right on. But let's talk about FAU and USF. USF is a team that's had Alex Golish as their head coach for a while now. Despite hard seasons under him, despite bad seasons under him, they have continued to keep him. FAU has gone through 3 head coaches
Yep.
in 5 years. And this leads to a lack of player retention. And I don't think you can give Tom Herman a season and a half and expect him to, you know, do something special. I mean, year one, he won 4 games. That's a team that lost basically everyone. And he started out 4-4. And then year two, 2-6, and you pull the fire button. I mean, you have to give guys at least 3 years. If they can't make a bowl game in 3 years, yes, but a season and a half isn't long enough. And I think that's part of the problem because USF has sustained their head coach for a while now, so he can bring in talent. FAU hasn't. It seems like every year everyone enters the transfer portal. I think we have to blame the offensive line as much as we have to blame Caden Velkamp. Dottie Richardson really wasn't able to block. He was one of our worst players there. Jake Von Nonar, the former Maryland O-lineman, really not able to do well too. Madden Sanker, FAU's most talented offensive lineman, he retired from FAU, or retired from football due to medical reasons just on Wednesday. And then you got a guy like Kushan Sapp who wasn't there either at center, wasn't playing. Offensive line, in the trenches, Maryland's defensive line, the speed, the Big Ten D line was able to get after Velkamp. FAU's defensive line was not doing anything and giving Malik Washington time to throw. So when you look at both these offensive lines, you have one who played really good, one who played really bad, and FAU's got to fix that. Granted, it is a big 10 defense itself. Blake, you mentioned, FAU needs to improve on the fundamentals. They need to get better overall with the quarterback. They did have some positives, though, which you hinted at with Jamari Sands, Dom Henry. You mentioned both of those. When you look at this game, and if you're Zach Kitley, if you are in the spot of Zach Kitley, how does this next week of practice look heading in to your home opener against an FCS team? A chance to go undefeated. Still, everything they want is ahead of them. A bowl game is ahead of them. A conference championship. This means nothing to the conference championship. They could still make it. But if you're Zach Kitley right now, what questions would you be asking yourself? And what would the plan be throughout practice, throughout this whole week against an FCS school?
Yeah, this is an interesting question, and I think I'm going to answer it in a little interesting way. Obviously, we're both high school students, JJ and I. And my high school just lost to a nationally ranked Philadelphia opponent in a pretty sad way. So losses to teams that game was going to be close. We expected to be close, in a game that you really should win. And I think whenever you're coming off a loss and being around a pretty solid football program and watching this FAU team in a game that really doesn't affect your standing in your state or in your conference in this sense for college football, it's something that you really are going to be able to take a lot of lessons out of. You're able to really see yourself match up to an opponent that's very strong, and it doesn't really affect anything for your playoffs or your bigger aspirations in the season. So I think in the FAU sense, this loss was almost it's never good to lose a game. It doesn't feel good to lose a game. But to FAU and especially to Zach Kitley, I think he's going to be able to fall back on this loss. Hopefully later in the season, let's get to week 10, and hopefully FAU maybe has only lost one other game to that point, and they have a pretty solid record, and they have an opportunity to maybe go into the conference championship, and you can look back on the loss to Maryland and be like fellas, we lost this first game of the season. We saw what we did wrong. We've improved drastically. And you can be peaking at the right time at a certain point. I think losing early is good in a way. I think Texas losing early might be good for their season. I think Army losing might be good for their season to wake them up. Notre Dame lost to NIU last year earlier in the season, and they ended up making it to the national championship. Losing early to a team can be a super duper positive based on how the players in the locker room react to it. So I think Kitley, his presence in practice, and hopefully his leadership and the leaders in the locker room are able to rally around each other and get this team with the good mindset. Like you mentioned, this game doesn't matter in a sense, because it does. You hurt your record, you hurt your national ranking, but you have everything that you want in front of you. And I think FAU, their leaders and their coaches and that whole staff has to understand that, and really they have something to prove. I think they still have something to prove, even if you lose to Maryland. I think they have something to prove if they beat Maryland. I think they have something more to prove that they lose it, because they have so much potential still. I mean, we did see there's bright spots of this team. There's really a good chance that FAU can still be a contender in this conference. I like FAU. I like the locker room. I like the leaders, hopefully, and we're gonna get to see how they bounce back against Bethune Cookman.
It will be Florida A&M, not
Florida A&M.
Bethune
Oh my gosh,
Cookman.
I am sorry.
It's okay. Both
Blake is
in
a
the
little
same
tired
state.
today.
Not at all. I mean, we all feel that way after the loss. That was hard to watch indeed, Blake. Blake, I want to ask you more of an interesting question here. You mentioned that this is the third hardest team on FAU schedule. You had them winning this game, winning 10 games this season with the two losses coming to South Florida and Tulane. After today's loss, how would you revise your record predictions? And I would assume you still don't have FAU winning double-digit games.
Well, I mean, I don't think they get a win over Tulane and USF, so that puts them at 9-3 right now. If I keep my old predictions,
And Memphis.
um,
Or
and Memphis, I did have. Wait, did I have them losing? I
you
had
did
them
have
losing.
FAU
I
beating
beating
Memphis,
Memphis. Yeah. Um. You know.
but you could obviously after today's game, we know how FAU is. I don't believe Memphis has kicked off yet.
No, I believe they haven't. I will have to watch the Memphis today, because that game is a little bit later in the season, I believe. Is that like around the week 8, week 9 timeline?
That's the week 4 game.
Week 4. Oh my gosh. So I'm really off today on my schedule predictions. But gosh, week 4 Memphis. We definitely got to see how they do this week. I think 9-3 with the 2 losses in conference. I don't know if that gets them into the conference championship. If Tulane and USF and Memphis, Army losing is pretty big. Uh, I know it is an early loss this season to a non-conference opponent, but that does show that Army is a beatable team. And I know we don't no we don't play Army this year, but we
We play
have
Navy.
Navy. And it's good to see that Army is beatable because last year they had a really great run um, to in the American Conference and yet good film. Um, I think 8-4 to 9-3 is still possible. I'm gonna say 8-4. I think they get 3 other losses on the season. 7-5, 8-4. That's what I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 8-4. I think they dropped the Memphis game.
Yeah, Blake 100% could see that for sure. I think, I really don't think that's going to happen. FAU lost to a Michigan State team last year in Michigan State, a Big Ten team, by 6 last year, and they won 3 games. So I really can't see a scenario where we win 6. It's that bad. I mean, nothing was working if Caden Belkamp gets this little time to throw. I don't know. I think 6-6, 5-7. I think if we win 6 games, I will be so happy with that. And I think that the mindset shifts to just a bowl game. But that'll do it on today's instant reaction, guys. That's our instant reaction. We'll be back with you guys, obviously, daily tomorrow, and we'll give you a more in-depth breakdown, so you won't want to miss that. And we'll talk about FAU's goals going forward. I gotta go on to FAU Zach Kitley's press conference right now. I just joined it online. So, gonna get to ask him some questions, his mindset overall. But thank you guys so much for watching. See you in the next one. Go Owls.
Hoot hoot.